Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of All on the Table. I'm Fatter Phil, and with me is Fat Adam.
Good day.
All on the Table is presented by Game It All, your one-stop shop for all your gaming and entertainment news, GameItAll.com. And we are also sponsored by the wonderful folks at Comic Hunter, a fantastic store, ComicHunter.net, where you can get just a ludicrous amount of back issues of comic books dating back to the Golden Age, and also Magic the Gathering singles at very good prices.
And wonderful toques.
And we're sporting the new toques that came in this week. Ooh, look at the fantastic
I almost
toques.
got the fuchsia one, not gonna lie.
Yeah? Oh, they're all brightly colored and
That's it.
really
Real
sharp
beautiful.
looking, but I'm a green guy, so hence the green toque. Today, for All on the Table, we are going to talk about crossover horror games as part of the final installment of Game It All's Games from the Crypt for Halloween month for October. Now, crossover horror games are pretty cool. Basically, it's what can you take and throw a little twist on. You can have anything from horror fantasy, which is relatively easy to do, considering a lot of undead are already in fantasy. And you can go horror and sci-fi with a little bit of a twist like that, which, talking about aliens, Predator, things like that. Or you can go real crazy and you can do something like the game we're going to be talking about today. One of my favorites, your favorites too, but Adam's never played it, sadly. This game...
It's becoming a recurring theme for me.
This game is called Deadlands, Adventures in the Weird West. Deadlands is a horror western crossover RPG created by a gentleman by the name of Shane Lacey Hensley. Deadlands is now part of the Savage Worlds umbrella. So if you know how to play Savage Worlds, which is this book right here, Deadlands is one of the settings for it, and probably one of the most popular ones. I, myself, have the spiffy anniversary edition of the core rulebook. Ooh, look at the gold.
Which is not shocking in any sense of the word.
Pretty. I'm actually getting the special edition of Volo's Guide to Monsters this week, too.
Also not shocked. If there's a special edition, Phil is going to try to own it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. So this is the old version of Deadlands, which was its own rule set. It's still owned by Pinnacle, which is the company that puts it through. You might know them more from their hockey cards. But Pinnacle is also very good at its gaming, and Deadlands is one of its main franchises. The old Deadlands system was basically a difficulty check. You rolled your die, and you had to meet a difficulty number, and if you succeeded, then you won. The thing that made old Deadlands really cool is you created your character by randomly drawing from playing cards, from a deck of playing cards, regular old playing cards, and if you drew certain cards, you would get a certain stat. So it was like all the face cards were like basically 12-sided die and 10-sided die, and then like 10, I think it was like 10 to 8 was 10-sided die, and then 7 to 5 was 8-sided die, and then down the line like that, and then you decided to put what card in what stat, and then you had your stats. And then based on what suit you had, it was determined how good your stat was based on that die type. So,
Interesting.
yeah, it was pretty cool. It doesn't work like that anymore.
Of course it doesn't. Why would you bother keeping it interesting?
No, it's not. That's not why.
Just so is this a... Deadlands uses a GURPS kind of system as well?
No, it does now. Savage Worlds is basically one of the generic RPGs, so you can have any setting. It's not setting specific. You could use the core rules. There's enough rules in this little tiny booklet that you could have a sci-fi world, you could have a horror world, you could have a fantasy world, you could have a crossover of all of them. The rules are very adaptive that way. But Deadlands uses that as its base, and then throws the setting on there, which is has specific rules for the setting. Like there's a fear level where you get a negative depending on how terrifyingly scary the area you're in is. And then you have like the gut stat, which is kind of like your resolve, your grit, your ability to face that danger and overcome the odds. So yeah, the old system was pretty cool. It was based on the look of the draw. So your 2s were 4-sided die. Your 3 to 8 was a 6-sided die. Your 9 to Jack were an 8-sided die. Your Queen to King were a 10-sided die. And your Ace was a 12-sided die. Then, depending on what suit you drew, you had so many of those dice in your stat. So if it was a club, you would only have 1 die in your stat. If it was a diamond, you would have 2. If it was a heart, you'd have 3. If it was a spade, you'd have 4. So if you drew a 9 of spades, you would get a D8, the 8-sided die, but you would get 4 dice. So that means that when you use that stat, you would roll 4d8.
Jesus.
If you drew a joker, that means your character has a mysterious past, and it also counts as d12s, like if you were drawing an ace. And I'm pretty sure that you, when you draw a joker, you then just draw another card and use that suit. So if you drew a joker, you would get d12s, and then you would just draw again. And if you got a club, it would be 1d12, for example. It allowed you to make some really cool characters, but sometimes, if someone's lucky, I've seen people draw Corey. I've seen him draw 2 aces, 2 kings. So 4 of his stats were going to be 12s and 10s. And they were all, and let's get this straight, they were all spades, and I think he drew a joker too. So, some people are crazy lucky when they're drawing their stats. And that's what that is. Whereas the Savage Worlds version is a point-based system, which makes more sense. All your stats start at a D4, and if you you have a certain amount of points that you put in. Whenever you put a point in a stat, it goes up by 1. So if you start at a D4, you put a point in it turns into a D6. You put a point in it turns into a D8. And you can only do it so many times at character creation. There's a limit, because in Deadlands you're humans. Mm-hmm. But there are some fantasy races that have different limits. Like an elf would be, let's say your humans would only have D10s as an upper limit for your stat. An elf is a naturally agile character, so their upper limit would be D12s. That's just an example of how that works.
Well, I think that's fair. Like with any other RPG setting, you always want to... There's slight bonuses depending on the race. Right?
Like a half-orc.
That's it.
A half-orc would have D12s as their upper limit, and things like that.
Do you only play humans in this?
For Deadlands, yes.
Okay.
For Deadlands, you're only humans. But,
because I know
there are rules.
There's
there are rules. There are a ton of races just in the core book.
Yeah.
Plus, I have, Savage Worlds, you can get a fantasy companion, which is more fantasy races and fantasy stats. There's a horror companion, which is more horror races and horror stats. And all of these are generic. They're not setting specific. But that's Savage Worlds. We will cover Savage Worlds in more detail in a future episode, because I want to talk about an episode where we talk about just generic RPGs. But today, it's not about that. Today's about crossover RPGs, particularly my favorite, Deadlands. So, Deadlands, the Weird West. It's basically an alternate timeline for the American West. As we all know, in real life, the American Civil War ended with the North winning, and then all of that went on from there. In Deadlands, right at the beginning of the Civil War, something happened. There was an Indian boy who was out hunting, and then he came home one day, and he was witnessing the last moments of his entire tribe being massacred by a bunch of white men. Yeah. He saw them like they were bad people. They were bad guys. They were raping, killing, slaughtering, for no reason. And then, well, they might have had a reason, but no reason justifies that kind of behavior, obviously. So then they ran off, and he ended up going there, and he swore revenge on them. And he named himself Raven, and became a shaman, and started to learning the paths of shamanism so he could find a way to have revenge on the white man. A few decades later, as a grown man and a fairly powerful shaman, he ended up gathering a group of followers of other Native Americans who had the same output of views than he does and hated the white man for what they did to them. He eventually stumbled upon ancient rituals and the sorts that ended up telling him about another world, a spirit world, known as the what is it called? Known as the hunting grounds, which is what they call their spirit world. He ended up finding a portal to the hunting grounds, and there he ended up meeting these ancient shamans called the Old Ones, and they were there to guard something to protect the world. And Raven figured that he would take whatever they were guarding and use it against the white man and unleash it on the white man.
That's
So
fair.
him and his followers ended up killing all of these old ones, these old shamans, all 13 of them, and it basically released the Manitou and the Reckoners, and their masters, the Reckoners. The Reckoners were ancient, powerful spirits who wanted to corrupt the world. And to do so, they had to bring fear to it. So Raven became one of their followers, and he went back to the world, and this caused what is referred to as the event. Now, what the event is on the day of the Battle of Gettysburg, the final day of the Battle of Gettysburg, something happened. On that day, Raven killed the last old one, and something happened. People on the battlefield didn't stay dead. They would get back up and keep fighting. And they became a stalemate. And all the battlefields all across the Americas, all over the world, just kept not ending. The Civil War ended up ending in a draw because of that. At the same time, a great earthquake struck California and exposed a strange vein to the world. A weird blackish greenish substance that kind of looked like coal, but gave off an intense heat and a sizzling sound whenever you got near it. What they ended up discovering in these veins in California was a substance that was named as ghost rock. The reason why it was called ghost rock, when you lit it, it screamed like people were It screamed like people who were on fire, and you end up finding out later on the reason why is because it is. Whenever anyone goes to hell, they basically get condensed into ghost rock. And then when you burn ghost rock, you are burning the souls of the damned.
This is ridiculous.
Yep. But the thing about ghost rock is it burns 100 times longer and hotter than coal. And the creation of ghost rock inspired all these scientists to come up with inventions, and steam technology just went through the roof. Imagine, trains will run on steam engines on wood and coal. But imagine if you could do it 100 times longer and 100 times faster.
It's almost self-sustaining.
Almost. So
As close as you could be in the Wild West.
So scientists and people who started studying started hearing weird voices in their minds saying, if you put this tube together this way with this container, and then you add this lens and switch it up a certain way, you could invent a gun that shoots a beam of light that would burn up people.
Oh, yeah, that's not crazy at all.
And then, or if you arrange this way and put a piece of ghost rock in these two tanks and strap them to the back, you could create enough propulsion to send you in the air, and you could wear it on your back. Or if you put these together, these gears a certain way with these blades on top, you would create kind of a strange bicycle that could fly. And so all of these scientists started getting these weird inspirations, and they would create these fantastic inventions like automated carriages that didn't need horses anymore, or flying automatons that flew around like velocipedes and things like that, or
it sounds more and more Fallout-ish.
Or Gatling pistols, or Gatling revolving shotguns, or
I just saw the Gatling pistol one.
Or things like that. And what people didn't notice is that these scientists also started going a little crazy from their ideas. So mad science became a thing, and steampunk technology just went into the forefront. Now, since the war didn't stop, both the Union and the Confederacy both decided to completely abolish slavery because they needed more soldiers, and they gave every man, no matter what their race, an equal footing in every single state. Now, what ended up happening is because the Civil War ended in a stalemate because of all these inventions and these people not dying, the U.S. is now divided, and this is still in the Old West era, the U.S. is now divided into several small countries. So there's like the Union, which is the North, the U.S. There's the Confederacy. There's the Free Republic of California. There's the Sioux Nations, which is basically all the all the Native Americans decided to get together and create their own nation.
I can picture that.
Particularly the Sioux. Then there was the Coyote Confederation, which is kind of like another Native American nation, but in a different part. Like that one's like closer to the American Southwest. Like it's basically the difference between the Coyote Confederations and the Sioux Nations is the Coyote Confederation doesn't care, is extremely xenophobic about the white man. Like they will kill them on sight, whereas the Sioux Nations you could get like permission to go through, but they don't want any technology. They just want to keep the old ways.
Okay.
Right. Then there's the state of Deseret, which is kind of Utah, and it's kind of like self-sufficient, but it's because of one guy. Because of Darius Hellstrom, which we'll talk about later. So all of this is happening. There's a guy called Hoyle. The name might sound familiar to those of you who play poker and card games. Hoyle is the guy who invented poker and a whole bunch of other card games, and he created a book, which was Hoyle's Book of Games. However, Hoyle also had these little things whispering in his ear, and within the diagrams for the card games and how to play, he put secret formulas and little incantations that allowed you to cast spells. So yes, once you got one of Hoyle's books, you learned to cast magic, and hucksters were born. Hucksters are basically gambling wizards that cast their spells by gambling with evil spirits. You can use your own power to cast it, but you only have a limited amount. But you can cut a deal with the proverbial demon on your shoulder to play a game of poker with him, and if you win, basically depending on how good your hand is, you can cast your spell for free or have a better effect. However, if the demon wins, he gets to choose how strong the spell is and what happens. More than once in a game I've DM'd, a demon has taken the spell, turned it around, and one-shotted another PC.
Great! So
Yeah.
There's huge downsides to being a magic user in this game.
Oh, yeah, but it's also a lot.
I was going to say, and I'm assuming
it's also a lot of power, though.
Yeah.
You know? So this was happening. Of course, the Native Americans, because they could access the hunting grounds, decided, well, we can't just let the evil forces give access, so we'll let the shamans access us as well. So they became shamans, and they cast shamanism. So, they can commune with spirits of nature. They're kind of very druidic in flavor.
Okay.
You can turn into elementals, or you can summon wolf spirits and things like that.
It makes sense from the stories of shamanism.
Yeah, you can heal people and things of the sort. And then finally, there's two more. One of them was you can be a martial artist. Who?
Monk.
Yeah, basically you're a monk, but it's more, way more Dragon Ball Z-ish than a traditional monk. No, but you can like fire ki from your hands and do like 100 hand slaps and.
I was gonna say, so you could just yell Kamehameha and then fire ki from your hands.
Yeah.
It's like you're saying.
Yeah. And, like do like ridiculous leaps or ridiculous spin attacks or things like that. Like, it's just mystical martial arts.
Can you leap tall caravans in a single match?
Fuck yes. Seen it happen. Then, finally, there's the Blessed. The blessed are basically the forces
Like
of
priests,
good
I
and the
think.
forces of heaven, or religion in general. Religious forces in general are giving their most devout followers like the ability to heal, the ability to protect innocent people. Because the thing that happened with releasing the Reckoners is not just Ghost Rock, not just all this, but all these evil demons and spirits are the direct servants of the Reckoners. The ones that are whispering in the scientist's ear and the ones that deal with the hucksters are all called Manitous, which is an ancient, in traditional our lore, Manitous are evil spirits, evil Native American spirits from Native American folklore. In this game, they are like demons. They are they whisper in your ear and they tell you what you want to know, but always at a price. Mm-hmm. And these Manitous are the servants of the Reckoners. Now, the reason why the forces of good got involved is because there's a secret about the Reckoners that not everyone is supposed to know. In the original edition of Deadlands, it was basically DM only. However, eventually Deadlands decided to do a spin-off. They wanted to do a spin-off, and they called it Hell on Earth, which is what would happen if the Reckoners actually got what they wanted. And you end up finding out that the Reckoners are the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
Oh.
War, death, famine, and pestilence.
Well, that makes more sense, actually.
Yeah. Now, Raven became a servant of the Reckoners, specifically war. And each of them have their own personal servant. Famine's personal servant is a man known as the Reverend Ezekiel Grimm.
Is that him?
No, that's the servant of death. That's Stone. Ezekiel Grimm is this guy. This guy right here.
I'm going to be deadly honest.
He was in charge of the Republic of California. He that was his domain, Famine's
Doesn't
domain.
California sink?
No, it half of it.
Oh, okay.
Half of it sinks and creates what's called the Great Maze, which is just like all these giant mesas that are up through the water, and you navigate through them to get to the city of Los Angeles, which is the capital city of
it's Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's Los Angeles. Yeah. So this
He's
is
the most terrifying of all of them.
Stone. Stone is terrifying.
By the look.
Oh my god. Anyways, so he's the servant of famine.
So I'm assuming that this was...
That's Raven.
That's Raven.
This is Raven. This is the servant of war, Raven. And then this is Stone. This is the same guy. This is that guy.
Servant of death?
This is the servant of death.
So where's the servant of pestilence?
The servant of pestilence is the Darius Hellstrom. He's the one in charge of Deseret, and his plot point campaign. There are these are plot point campaigns. These three, these four,
okay.
and his just got funded on Kickstarter, so it's going to be coming out later this year or early next year.
Got it. That's the only reason you don't own it.
That's the only reason I don't own it, because it's not out yet. I just got Stone in a Hard Place last month.
I'm assuming you backed the other one on Kickstarter.
No, I didn't back this one either. I didn't find out about it till too late.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, I would have.
There we go. There had to be a reason. Come on.
So all of these plot points, like as you can see, some of them are pretty voluminous. Like these tomes are pretty voluminous. We've been through the Flood, which is the Reverend's one, the Famine one, and we've been through the Last Sons, which is War. We just finished the Last Sons actually, not too long ago. Of course, Stone in a Hard Place will be the inevitable one, where you get to face Stone, which is probably the most dangerous character in all of Deadlands. Like, he's even more dangerous than fucking Raven. But all of the characters have all of the servants of the Reckoners have very specific things that can kill them. Like Raven, you have to get one of the original swords that was owned by a conquistador that came to North America. Like Cortez and his dudes, you have to own one of their swords, and it's the only thing that can kill them. Then, Reverend Grimm, you have to use...
Be careful what you say for the books you haven't played through.
You have to use his... No, they're all in the core. How you kill them is all in the core.
They tell you? Okay.
Yeah. The Reverend Grimm, you have to use his original walking stick that he had when he became the abomination that he became.
Is that the one that he's carrying in the...
No. He actually, that got lost in the Flood. Like, it got lost in the maze somewhere. So it's somewhere in the maze. The only way to kill Stone is you have to use his own fucking guns to kill him. But the guns have a special ability where they just come back to his hands. So it's really hard to kill him.
Cut off his hand.
He,
Aim the gun
he,
at him with his own
he
hand.
has a special powers that see the last thing about Deadlands that makes it really cool for a character option is you have what is called sometimes you don't stay dead, sometimes you come back, and sometimes when you do, you come back what's called harrowed. Basically, a Manitou possesses your body, and you and the Manitou have to fight each other on a spiritual plane, and whichever one of you triumphs over the other has dominion over the body. And then every day when you wake up, you fight for dominion, and you fight for dominion, and you fight your dominion. If the Manitou wins dominion at any point, you give me your sheet, and I get to play your character with the Manitou doing whatever the sweet fuck he wants. When you get dominion, then you get to... You know,
if he takes over, do I get to roll for Dominion the next day?
yeah, every day you get to roll for Dominion again. Every day. Now, the thing about Stone is, he was such a terrible, evil, stone-cold badass that the moment the Manitou tried to fight him for Dominion, Stone kicked his ass and has been in control ever since. Like, he's so terrifying, he scared his Manitou into submission without even breaking a sweat.
I want to be this guy.
That one actually has like a ridiculous convoluted plot point that involves time travel and everything.
What?
Yeah. The future Stone comes back in time to make sure that the past Stone does what he's supposed to.
That's a bit much.
And stuff like that, or he has to kill himself or something. I don't remember, but it's long and convoluted. I have to read it again. Now, when you come back as Harrowed, you get a bunch of different powers. Like you have to eat raw meat. It's the only thing you can eat. It doesn't have to be human. You just have to eat raw meat. It's the only thing that can heal you. And you have to basically drink, I think it's a quart of straight alcohol, like straight whiskey or something, every day. Otherwise, you rot from the inside and you start to smell. It preserves you, pretty much. I'm sure you could drink formaldehyde every day, but it probably wouldn't taste as good.
I doubt it.
But being harrowed, I mean, you can get shot over and over again and nothing's going to happen to you unless they shoot you in the head.
Well, there is some decent things that Harrowed can do as well.
Oh yeah, the harrowed have all kinds of weird powers, like they can grow claws, or they can stick to surfaces and climb things, or...
Spiritual barbed wire.
Yeah, like they have all kinds of weird powers. Now, to continue the story of Deadlands, because of the stalemate, you have all these little locations. And of course, the final servitor is a guy called Darius Hellstrom. He's the servitor of Pestilence, and he's like the foremost preeminent mad scientist.
So was he the one who started this whole process?
No, Raven did.
Scientist, I mean. Was he the first scientist?
He was the
studying
first mad
everything?
scientist, yes.
Yeah.
He was the first mad scientist.
When we started talking about
his inventions, like he's the one who invented like automatons, like basically like automatic robots with fucking machine guns and shit like that.
Got it.
Like, you know, steam
He's a
engines,
fucking
big
psychopath. Got
steam engines and things like that.
I want to be a hex slinger.
A hexslinger is basically one of the wizard guys.
It'd be like Jonah Hex.
Not really. You're one of the wizard guys. You're one of the hucksters, but it's for guns. It's specifically for guns.
I totally want to be a hex
But
slinger.
hexslingers are more kind of like, it's like it was this Norse guy who discovered the book, Hoyle's book, and he applied those to Nordic rune casting.
Okay.
So basically you cast runes on yourself and your weapons, and that's how you cast your spells.
That's actually
Yeah.
kind of cool. Anyway.
So, in the world of Deadlands, you have all of this. What the Reckoners want to do is they want people to be scared. The more scared people are, the more the fear level goes up. And fear level is like a chart, is like 1 to 5. Once it goes over 5 and reaches 6, that area becomes what is known as a Deadland. If there are too many Deadlands in the world, or wherever they are, then the Reckoners can leave the spiritual world, the hunting grounds, and manifest on Earth, which is what the spin-off Hell on Earth is. Basically, there was enough Deadlands created with a nuclear war involving ghost rock bombs, and when those were set off, it created enough fear around the world that the Reckoners showed up. But when they did, Darius Hellstrom, that guy we talked about, did a face heel turn and used a special device he created and sent all of them to another planet. Sent the Reckoners to another planet.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Fucked up.
Yeah, but that's in the Hell on Earth spin-off. That's basically a post-apocalyptic continuation of Deadlands. There's actually a setting in between called Deadlands Noir, which is Deadlands, but in the 20s. In the 1920s. Like, what if it continued until the 20s?
So, like, Mafia age, when gangs were getting big.
Yeah, like
Just
that
after World War
that
I.
era. Like, you know, there's lots of detective stories and things like that. Like, that kind of a setting. And Hell on Earth takes place in 2097. So, it's kind of like a quasi-futuristic thing. Now, obviously, the governments of the different countries in the United States reacted to the event a different way. The North created an organization called the Agency, and they're the Men in Black. Like, no, man, I'm not fucking joking. They're the Men in Black. Like, they're called the Men in Black Dusters. They wear all black all the time.
They're called the Men in Black Dusters.
They call themselves the Men in Black Dusters. They have standard issue is the Gatling pistol for them, and like later on you can go up in rank and make requests for equipment, and you can even get the neuralizer.
Fuck off.
It's an item, the neuralizer, because the thing is they figured out that increasing the fear level makes things worse, makes more monsters appear, makes more people
So in
more
order to
superstitious.
decrease it,
They hit people with the neuralizer so they don't remember that they saw a monster. They don't remember that, you know, this place is scary as fuck and things like that.
Can I recruit Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones?
I don't know. Maybe.
I feel this is actually Tommy Lee Jones when he gets old.
Maybe. Maybe.
And this is about as close to Will Smith as some is.
So yeah. So that's the Agency. They're the head of their agency is actually the harrowed body of Abraham Lincoln.
Oh my
He calls himself
God.
the Ghost. No, man, this is alternate reality, right? So
I
all
know,
of the
I
Old
know.
West celebrities and all of the Old West famous people are all in this, man. Like Wild Bill Hickok, Billy the Kid, Wyatt Earp, all of them.
Are they all harrowed?
No,
Good.
nope, just a lot. Some of them are. Like Wild Bill Hickok was shot in the back, so he became harrowed. Abraham Lincoln was shot in the head, he became harrowed. But like, Doc Holliday and all of them, like I think whichever one of them has tuberculosis. One of them has tuberculosis. I don't remember which one of them is dying. It's either Doc Holliday or his friend, but whichever one of them is dying. It says it in the book. He's dying.
But they'll come back.
Hmm?
Harrowed.
Maybe. It's random if you come back harrowed or not. Basically, when you die, if your character dies, you can come back harrowed. When you die, you roll. You draw cards from the poker deck, and if you draw a joker, based on a certain stat, like the more grit you have, the more cards you draw. And if you draw a joker, you come back harrowed.
But if you don't draw,
You're dead. Then you're dead. You're just dead.
you did.
You're just dead. So that was how the North reacted. They created the Agency. How the South reacted is they created the Texas Rangers. And the Texas Rangers get this book, which basically it's the Rangers Field Manual. And once you get high enough rank as a Texas Ranger, they send you the other half of the book, which is all about the supernatural and the event and all that stuff. And they're always at odds. Like the North and the South, obviously, are still at odds. They're not at war officially, but you know,
Because they have something stronger to battle.
yeah, they just hate each other. But so the Rangers, unlike the Agency, who have to cover it up, the Rangers don't have that kind of shit. They don't have that kind of equipment. They don't have the research and all that. So they just go places and kick the shit out of whatever's there and tell the people to, you know, be careful next time or whatever.
Hide your daughters, hide your wives.
Yeah, sure. So that in a nutshell is how the setting works. All the different plot points involve large-scale events that happen in the Deadlands. You know, that happen in the Weird West, as they call it. And it's great crossover. It's Old West with horror, and it works really well because of the whole fear level.
That's why I felt very Jonah Hex to me.
Well, yeah, Jonah
Not in a
Hex,
bad way.
Briscoe
Not Jonah
County
Hex.
Jr., if you're a fan of that show, which was a show with Bruce Campbell.
I actually never watched that one.
No? You know what?
Do they talk about it?
Forward is by Bruce Campbell.
Fuck, super young Bruce Campbell.
Super young Bruce Campbell, well, super young picture Bruce Campbell, wrote the foreword for the original edition of Deadlands. I don't know if he wrote the foreword for this one.
Who wrote the foreword for the second one? Good Clint Eastwood you watch.
There's no foreword. There's no foreword in this one.
There's a CD though.
Yeah, the special edition of the book, basically signed by the creator, numbered. There was only 1,000 of these made.
Numbered.
And it came with a CD called Weird Waylands, and it's a whole bunch of setting music, like Old West setting music, but with a little bit of horror twist.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a nice little bonus. I mean,
it's definitely worth it. Kelly got it too.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, there were 2 copies at the Hunter. So Deadlands had a couple spin-off games, most notably Doomtown, which is now dead. Fuck you, AEG. Doomtown was one of my favorite games. When L5R died, I really got into it really bad, and then they pulled the plug on Doomtown. Now I'm upset. I'm still upset.
They've murdered how many of your favorite titles?
2. And then very recently, AEG announced that they were abandoning the Doomtown license, and I got upset.
I remember that day. We had a rant about that.
Yeah.
Good rant.
But Deadlands is a lot of fun. The Savage World system is kind of a target number system as well. Your stat has a different die type, and the target number is a 4. So if you roll a 4 or better, you succeed. There'll be negatives depending on circumstances that the DM will put on your roll. But whenever you roll, you always get a d6, which is called the wild die. And dice in this game explode, so when you reach, if you roll the max on a die, you roll it again and add it to whatever you had previously. So if I'm rolling a 10-sided die and I roll a 10, I then roll it again and say I roll a 5, well that's 10 and 5, that's 15. The same applies for the wild die, it does it too. So
does it happen constantly? So basically being like, if you roll it 4 times and all 4 times you get a 10, you should just keep going.
Keep going.
Wow.
It's just, well,
max cap?
if you get 4 over either the target number or 4, you get you crit the roll basically.
Oh, okay.
And some abilities and some combat rules are like, the more successes you get, the more 4 over you get, the more bonuses you get.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah, like the system's really freeform, or really easy to learn.
It seems so.
Yeah. I love Deadlands to death because I'm a sucker for alternate history. So this setting is basically Old West horror with an alternate history twist. And, who doesn't want to play an undead cowboy fighting a wizard poker player while driving on the back of a flying helicopter that some mad scientist created? Shit like that. Like it's awesome. It's great. The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., which was a short-lived TV series, very Deadlands-ish. Very, very Deadlands-ish. I think it's great.
What's your rating?
Deadlands? As a setting, it's great. It's very well developed. As a setting, solid 4. As part of the Savage Worlds, the game itself, like gameplay wise, 5, because it's good. Or not 5, sorry, 3. It's really good, but I don't like games that have guns as a main weapon.
Yeah.
I don't like that a lot, because
a lot of people don't play with any sort of guns and
especially in a setting like this where it's in the Old West and medicine isn't advanced.
Yeah.
You make sure you've got magical spells for some characters, but if someone decided not to become a blessed or an Indian shaman, you weren't healing no one magically.
You're essentially screwed.
Yeah, you get shot, you got to heal the old-fashioned way. And back in the Old West, the old-fashioned way was pretty brutal.
Probably bleed out and get dysentery.
And a lot of the
amputation.
A lot of the monsters are really fucking tough. Like, even, like, simple monsters are really freaking tough. Like the Hanging Judges monsters, which is the dude on the cover of this book here, Hanging Judges, they're really hard to beat. You have to hang them to kill them. And it's hard because they're undead and they're tough and you gotta take them down. All the monsters have very specific weaknesses. And,
that sucks.
yeah, like
Judge's weakness.
His own weapons and.
So is he a hanging judge now?
Hmm? Stone? No. Stone is different. He's a herald. He's just a herald with, but he's powered by death. He's got a bunch of extra abilities. Now the thing about Deadlands is they also released a bunch of other stuff. This is the trail guides, and this has a trail guide book. It has very specific chapters for specific zones. So south of the border, this has south of the border, which talks about Mexico and what's going on in Mexico in the world of Deadlands. Then you have the Great Northwest, which
Presidente Gabriel is taking over.
The Great Northwest, which is basically like the Seattle, Washington area, stuff like that. And then the Great White North, the Weird White North, which is Alaska, British Columbia.
I feel like that's a racist term.
Huh? What?
The Great White North.
The Weird White North. It's Canada. It's Canada in it.
All the white people
And Alaska. No, because it's eternal winter.
Oh, is it Eternal Winter?
Eternal Winter. The Reckoners created Eternal Winter up in the north, and there's something called the Winter Line, which
now I know where Americans get it from.
Which that Darius Hellstrom guy created, and it's basically like this giant energy field that keeps winter over there.
Motherfucker.
And then you have other settings, like other books like this, Ghost Town. This is 7 towns that all have a different gimmick. Like one of them is a secret werewolf haunt, one of them is a ghost town, one of them is a murder mystery, things like that. So altogether, there's a lot of product out for Deadlands. I really recommend either edition, the new edition with Savage Worlds or the old edition if you can find it. They're both a lot of fun. They're both really unique. They're both great. The old edition had a ton of books. Like, the old edition was around for a long fucking time, 10 years. And they have a lot of fucking material, and all of it's really good.
That is pretty significant when you look at RPG years.
Yeah. They would release 2 to 3 supplements a year, right?
That's it. Usually most, like, look at D&D, look at Pathfinder, stuff like that.
It doesn't take long.
No.
The Doomtown card game, which is the spin-off of Deadlands, takes place in a town called Gomorrah, which is the Doomtown. And it's kind of like if you can find it, play it, pick it up. You should be able to pick it up cheap now that the game's been discontinued. It's kind of like a mix between chess and poker, if you can understand that. Basically, it's like you move your characters, your cards and characters all over the town and control different areas, and combat, whenever someone comes in to fight you, is played using poker hands, because all the cards in your deck have a suit and value like a poker deck.
Okay.
So, you know,
right. So you're essentially playing poker against each other.
Yeah, you play poker against each other, and then based on how good of a gunfighter your character is, you draw more cards, or you can redraw more cards.
I'm okay with that.
It's a lot of fun.
It's actually really interesting.
We can play it sometime.
Yeah.
I have the whole fucking thing.
I'll try it out.
So crossover RPGs have a lot of options. Like, that was just Deadlands. That's my favorite one, and I really do highly recommend it. But even within things like crossover RPGs, you have other options, like Deadlands Noir, which is 1920s pulp fiction, stuff like that. Hell on Earth, post-apocalyptic horror, but that comes from Deadlands, so it's got kind of an Old Westy twist.
With what looks like the Knights Templar.
Yes, that's the Blessed become them.
Jesus.
Eventually, the evolution of the Blessed is they become like a Knights Templar type of thing. I
just want to toss out, she looks scary as shit.
She is scary as shit. She's actually one of the major PCs.
Got it.
Sister Judith
She just looks like she would take my head right off my shoulders.
She took that monster's head right off his fucking shoulders.
Yep. Alright. Got it. Don't mess with the chick with a giant bleeding sword.
Kind of looks like a giant butcher knife.
Yeah, that's fucked. That almost looks like a...
Falcata?
Yeah, but...
like a big scimitar?
Who the fuck used that? The main
Thorin.
bad guy from Final Fantasy
Cypher?
Was it Cypher? No, Squall used it. The gunblade. It looks almost like a gunblade.
Yeah, but Cypher and Squall both used gunblades.
Yeah.
So this is Old West and horror. There's other horror twists too. One of my personal favorite D&D settings. Adam hates it because when I ran it last time with him in it, he died. Ravenloft.
Okay, why did we die though, Phil? There are death runes in that bitch. And
Okay, you know
I
what?
didn't do anything.
You know
I
what?
didn't run into them. Corey and them ran into them.
You know what? You were in the fucking blast zone.
Yes.
Alright? And
It resonated down the fucking hallway, down the staircase, and nuked like 5 of them.
basically they went up a staircase in Castle Ravenloft, which
Nobody
is
bothered checking.
the most famous castle in the setting. And they didn't wait for the rogue to check for traps, and they ran across a rune trap that had Circle of Death, and the supplement had it. I showed you the supplement.
Oh,
I
it
wrote
wasn't
down.
lying. It literally
It had a Circle of Death trap, and
It's
it
like, what?
got triggered and killed
10d6 or some
2
shit?
party members and an animal companion.
Was it 10d6 or 20d6? Or some astronomical amount of damage.
It was a big amount of damage, yeah.
Yeah.
It's 3.5, so it was a big
Well, it was
chunk.
enough to kill 4 of us.
It killed so many hit dice at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like 10 or 15 d4 of hit dice.
Yeah. It was
And
enough to
then-
kill all of us.
It killed all 3 of you, no problem.
It probably would have been able to kill, I would say...
If the
most
rest of the party
if you
would have been
rolled
in
properly.
range, yes, they would have killed them. So yes, Adam died to a trap in Ravenloft.
Yeah.
Ravenloft.
However, it was extremely fun to play.
Ravenloft is a very popular D&D setting. This is the 3rd edition book from. It was released by Deadlands back in the day. Now Ravenloft is back under the warm embrace of Wizards of the Coast, and they have released a supplement, which is The Curse of Strahd, which was an adventure line, which was very good. An adventure book, which was very good. Ravenloft is horror and fantasy mixed together.
Yep.
It does it very, very well. It's kind of got like an Eastern European flavor, like Eastern European horror, like kind of like the Gypsy, Dracula, Frankenstein, Van Helsing type of flavor. Like all from that era.
Yeah.
It works very, very well. A lot of the ghosts and the creatures are really cool.
They translate well.
It translates well into a fantasy setting.
Good roleplay value too. It's really fun to actually. It's fun to roleplay it.
Ravenloft is great. There's other settings like Cthulhu Tech, if you really want to go really weird. I don't own the book. I have it on PDF. I bought the PDF a long time ago. Cthulhu Tech is based on the works of H.P. Lovecraft, Call of Cthulhu and things like that. But it happens in the future where humans have developed the technology to use mechs. So you can literally get up and punch Cthulhu in the fucking face with your mech.
Can you kill him?
No, you can't kill Cthulhu, man.
That's what I figured. We're still not quite there yet.
But, there is that old saying in RPGs, if you stat it, they will kill it.
That's true. Have they static Cthulhu yet?
Yeah. But basically, it's like all of the ancient Lovecraftian races, like the Mygo, have their own mechs, and the deep old ones have their own mechs. But you have your own mechs and stuff like that, and it all uses psychic power to power them. And it's like, but it's a mech game.
No.
Around the world of around the mythos of H.P. Lovecraft. But it's just an example of different genre bendings. You can bend your horror with your
You
sci-fi.
can bend anything with
And then sometimes you get some kooky shit. Like this. Oz the Dark and Terrible. You like The Wizard of Oz? You want to throw some horror in there? Oz the Dark and Terrible role-playing game.
If you can see the picture on the front of the book a little bit more clearly, I'm fairly comfortable they're all fucking dead.
Basically, this is an Oz closer to the original stories of Frank L. Baum. However, with one important twist. Dorothy never showed up.
Aww.
So the world went to crap because the heroine didn't show up to stop the Wicked Witch of the West or the East from doing anything.
Yeah.
And they ended up taking over their parts of Oz. And it turns out that the wizard, because he was so desperate about it all, ended up becoming way more corrupt. And he basically downloads his consciousness into this giant talking metallic head.
Colonel Nick Chopper.
Yep.
Colonel Nick Chopper, Your Excellency, announced the page, stepping smoothly.
And you can play any of the different races from the original stories of Oz, like
Can you
Winkies.
play one of the members of the fucking Lollipop Guild?
Yep, Winkies, Munchkinlanders, things like that.
I kinda wanna play it.
You can be a Tin Man, you could be a TikTok automaton.
Flying monkey.
Maybe?
I wanna be a flying monkey.
In the stories of Oz, there's 2 types of animals. There's animals and
Holy shit, it's got an entire timeline of Oz.
yeah, there's animals and then capital animals with a capital A, which are intelligent and sentient.
What does AA stand for?
After something. It's different story. It's different timelines, like BC, DC, things like that.
Age of Blood. The Age of Iron and Steam.
And it's pretty cool. It's pretty unique. It's got its own system. I haven't played it yet. I've read it quite a bit, though, and I found it very interesting.
The artwork in this is beautiful.
Oh, yeah, it's gorgeous. But yeah, that's just another example of horror crossover. You can cross over... ultimately,
sorry.
Ultimately, you can cross over anything with horror if you really want to. You just have to give it a scary twist. But some games are made with it. So, you know, the next time you...
create our own horror-themed RPG.
No.
Based on My Little Pony.
Probably already out there, man.
Greg would buy it.
So, the next time a DM decides to throw a game at you around Halloween, he might give it a little bit of a scary twist. So you don't really have to go to the pure horror aisle just to get horror game experience. You can really do it and get best of both worlds.
What Phil is saying is for anybody who is friends with Phil and going to his place sometime over the next few days, he's going to make sure that you shit your pants before you leave the house.
Hey, I'm just saying I've got a vampire game on Sunday.
Y'all dead. This one, actually, in my opinion, like out of all the ones that Deadlands looks the most interesting, I find that this is definitely the second most interesting out of all the games. I don't know why. Something just like I can't stop.
It's unusual, right? It's the stories. It's Oz.
Because it's a story we're all familiar with.
Yeah,
but it's in such a creepy way.
It's just an alternate take.
Oh my god! And the character creation and stuff, like it all just looks fairly simplistic. But then you see pictures like this with the creepy ass little child with a teddy bear. Fuck.
It's like Amnesia, right?
Or Scarecrow missing an eye. Yeah, no, fuck you. I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen, that I have not picked that game back up. I honestly was terrified of it. I'm not gonna lie. I am picking it back up though. I want to try to beat it before Halloween. I have this weekend off and then 11 days off before HallCon, so I will be playing through Amnesia before Halloween.
Good call.
I'm gonna shit my pants.
So today that was our episode for crossover horror RPGs.
You can't create an animal.
Yeah, an animal. Their thing.
I can be a flying monkey.
You can be a flying monkey. So this was our episode about crossover horror RPGs. I highly recommend them. I've pretty much not played a stinker out of all of them. Well, I haven't played Cthulhu Tech yet, but it's interesting enough. Although if you can punch the horror in the face, I don't think it's
really
so much that's scary. But, you know, the right DM.
It's basically Rock'em Sock'em Cthulhu bots.
The right DM can make anything scary.
True. Cthulhu breaks out of his fucking giant mech and then just starts ripping.
No. You would just fight like Cthulhu, right? You would be in the mech. He doesn't need one, dude.
He should have one. Can you imagine Cthulhu in a mech?
Probably.
You have to break the mech first, then fight Cthulhu?
It's probably in there. It's probably in the game. Anyways.
Not to mention be like 20 times bigger than your mech. Sorry. We're thinking of ways to make it work.
Yeah.
This has been our month of...
This is the conclusion of the... see, Dorothy's missing.
Yeah, I just noticed that her shadow was still there, though. That is a little creepy.
Yeah, she should be there, but she's not. So, yes, this concludes our month of games from the Crypt with Game It All. The next week, I'm not 100% sure what our next episode will be. I do have a few ideas, so stay tuned, however, and keep watching. And we thank you all for your patronage and your attentiveness. I would like to give a shout out to our sponsors, the Comic Hunter, once again. Fantastic guys, great store, comichunter.net. Really one of the most important websites in the world. Get a great deal on back issues and magic cards.
And back rubs.
You have to come
Ask for Remy, tell him how to send you. Back rubs.
But you have to come in for back rubs.
Yeah. No websites, back rubs.
And of course, stay tuned to Game It All this week. We have a lot of new content, a lot of great stuff, a lot of great reviews and podcasts, and hope you enjoy them all. As always, I'm Fatter Phil.
And I'm Fat Adam.
And have a good night, and don't get too scared out there.